Hey, Anthony, I got a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
What is your favorite Spider-Man waifu? And
Spider-Man
yeah,
waifu.
just to list a couple, we got Blackjack.
Blackjack.
We got Blackjack. We got Gwen Stacy. We got the Weed, also known as Mary Jane. We got technically Mockingbird at some points.
hmm
We have
This
Silver
one is Kitty Pride. She's in here a lot. She's one of the X-Men.
Kitty Pride.
hmm There's Betty Brant. There's a ton. But you know this answer. I've talked about it a dozen times before. Mary Jane has always had a soft spot in my heart because I read the older '63 story, and their relationship in that was
I
amazing.
really hope I got that year right because we're like bouncing straight into the next one. If I messed it up, like that would be pretty bad. I'm gonna actually Spider-Man comics origin. What year was that?
Yeah, '63.
Was it 63?
Yeah.
62.
Oh.
Oh no!
Oh no, we're off a year. Close enough.
Fire me. Don't
So
actually
yes,
fire me, please. This is all I have.
we're continuing from where we left off last time. We are on issue 8, and this
Yeah.
is starting the next part
Hey, I
called
didn't get to
Learning
say
Curve.
who my favorite is.
Oh, sorry, yeah, no, sorry, I did realize that. Go for it.
I
What
don't
is your
have
favorite?
one.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Probably really depends on my continuity, but I do like I said in the earlier in the episodes before. Um, read a lot of 2018
Mm-hmm.
or like the Amazing Spider-Man, which was
Yeah.
like 2017 stuff like that. In the end, definitely Mary Jane is always a great choice, but also I would have liked to see more of a Gwen Stacy because when it came down to it, like in the original Spider-Man, like Gwen Stacy was the perfect person for him. That's like almost as if she was entirely built for that, and then she just dies.
Yeah.
So if we could have saw her more, that would have been cool. But also the concept of Black Cat Spider-Man trying to help her turn good, and it's kind of this weird dicey
It's an
relationship.
interesting one. Yeah.
That always, excuse me, I always enjoyed like listening to that and trying to figure out like is she gonna be better? She tries to do better, but like, can you really break out of old habits? And but now that we're there, uh, we're gonna do the next two issues. I mean, two
Two arcs.
arcs. Yeah, the next two issues, and then we end the video. That's gonna be like 5 minutes long. But these are gonna be issues 8 through 13, and then the next one is going to be like issues 14 through 21. So we're just
Yeah.
gonna sit down and kind of tank through this. You made these notes, so you
Yes,
start with issue 8, working stiff.
yes. The very first note reads, and I quote, "vibrator." That is in reference to at the very beginning of issue 8, Spider-Man is fighting a new villain who is using some type of vibrating power, and he makes the joke, "What are you supposed to be? The vibrator?" And it's such a small niche tongue-in-cheek joke, you know. Obviously, if anyone who has read Spider-Man before knows, it's their take on the Shocker.
We get to see that Peter, even with his angsty self, is still getting to be that witty little
Yeah,
shit
witty,
that
quippy little shit.
everyone loves.
And then from this point, takes him down real fast, and then we move on to him with Spider-Man or Peter taking pictures of Spider-Man, and then ends up getting a job at the Daily Bugle, where he is hired on specifically to work on their website, not as a photographer, but to work on their website because he's young and understands computers.
This is also the moment that I think we get introduced to Betty Brant because wasn't Betty Brant the one that was having issues with the computer?
Yes, if I remember correctly, it was. I'm gonna actually pull it up real fast so I can confirm.
Because what's happening is the source code I think was broken because they didn't finish closing it. I think he said at some point. But whatever the case may be,
Yes.
yeah, she's like frustrated at the computer,
Mm-hmm.
throwing her hands around and stuff. And then Peter's like, "Oh, it's a very simple fix." And then you're hired.
Yep. So it's a scripts in a recursive loop. I
What?
I said that's what it says. It looks like the scripts in a recursive loop.
It's a recursive loop because you forgot to end the recursive loop. Break the cycle.
But yeah, so Peter Man,
Peter Man.
Peter ends up getting the job at the Daily Bugle. And then we kind of see as he has some nightmares dealing with not Peter, Uncle Ben's killer.
Damn, this is
And
a lot of Peters.
I know I keep saying Peter. Pretty much when he goes back to work, he ends up researching the killer, discovers that there's a connection to the
Peter.
Kingpin. Yeah, sorry.
No, no,
And
don't. No, you were right.
yeah,
I said
and
ends up as Peter.
oh, and so yeah, discovers the connection to Kingpin, also known as Wilson Fisk.
Wilson Peter.
Peter is angry that no one is doing anything to stop
Peter.
Kingpin. He ends up talking to like some other workers at the Daily Bugle, like, why aren't we talking about them? Why aren't they arrested
Ain't
for the
this
bad people?
also where we get to introduce ourselves to who is the guy that's basically running the Daily Bugle?
Robbie.
Robbie,
Yep.
yes. This is where we kind of meet
Robbie. We
Robbie.
meet Ben Urich, who's the main reporter. People like that.
Oh yeah, he's a nerd.
And then at this point, that's kind of where that issue ends. We go to issue 9 called Meet the Enforcers.
And so basically, we kind of swing into the swing of things, haha, as Peter is ruining some sort of operation that's going on, being Spider Man, doing Spidey stuff. You know how it goes, and kind of ends with nothing super big happening. It's when he finally gets to be real Peter Parker that we get to see as MJ, as Peter out on a date. And he can't do it Friday because he's got some stuff that he's got planned. And by stuff, we're talking about that Spider Man stuff. But being the suave man he is, yeah, it's about Saturday. And then he breaks into Kingpin's office.
Mhm.
And that is all the important stuff in Meet the Enforcers issue 9. So
Yeah. So like the sting, I mean, I can go in a little more detail. Like the sting operation was the enforcers. Pretty much the police were trying to get information on him, and Peter goes in and stops them, and they're like, "You fucking ruined our evidence."
well, sorry that I'm trying to
Mhm.
stop the criminals, but hey, he still gets late.
And so then at this point, we go to issue 10, and that one is called The Worst Thing. So this is where we get Kingpin versus Spider-Man. Kingpin wants to know who sent him, and Spider-Man, being the quippy little shit he is, says Carson Daly. Kingpin ends up actually using Electro to stop Spider-Man. They unmask him, and they see just some random kid, and they throw him at the fucking window.
Very quickly is not only Peter Parker's identity shown, but also he is immediately wiped the floor. If I remember correctly, uh, he had to trifle with the Green Goblin. Like, well, he didn't even trifle with the Green Goblin to begin with. The Green Goblin wasn't super prominent until later issues. This is only issue 10
Uh-huh.
of this entire storyline, and he has already been incapacitated, thrown out the window, unmasked, already ruined. And this moment, after knowing this now, is makes it so much sweeter when we get later down the road. You know what scene I'm talking about, but we can't say anything too much about that. Let's just say Spider-Man's not here to kill him, and we'll just leave it at that statement.
And so at this point in time, Kingpin. Oh, sorry, fuck. I jumped a bullet point.
The Kingpin goes home.
Yeah. Peter goes home. Aunt May breaks down, talking about everything with Uncle Ben's death, and like I said, the guy you mentioned earlier, we really do see this kind of weaker Aunt May. She's worried about Peter. She's worried about Uncle Ben, how they're gonna make things work, and
She also gets to talk about how Peter doesn't open up to anyone this entire time. Peter's trying to do everything on his own. He's trying to grieve his own way, which is also another reason why we didn't talk too much about it in the last issue. But Carson Daly was one of the enforcers, and that was the guy that was like, "Hey, yo, go to Kingpin. Kingpin would know everything." That's why he refers to him as Carson Daly. I mean, tells him Carson Daly. So he is on this war path that his grieving is destroying all these villains and trying to get to the bottom of this, leaving Aunt May alone. Like, she is just a frail old woman in this. Like, she is one person that cannot stand the weight of everything that's going on, and it just doesn't, everything just falls apart.
Mary Jane ends up calling Peter, kind of talk about the date, and Peter cancels because he's fucking beat up. He's hurt after that fight, and he knows he can't make it.
Listen, I'm gonna be entirely honest with you. If I like got 1.3 million volt shock through me, but like I had a date to go to, like I'm putting on like a hoodie, I'm putting on a mask, whatever I gotta do to show up, man. I'm gonna make it.
At this point, Kingpin kills Carson Daly because he believed that he sent Spider-Man, but he also kills him in the Spider-Man mask and like kind of like crushes his head. And then they end up leaving the body to be found, and the police at this point are like, "Well, this is weird. He has a Spider-Man mask. Spider-Man must have did it." And Peter's like, "God damn, he can't catch a break." He's just so angsty and so angry. And so going back out to school, he's like, I think I got a plan. I think I can take down Kingpin.
And the next issue is issue 11, Discovery. Peter starts to research his plan, and he's sent to speak with a counselor because his uncle just fucking died.
Well, it's more of the attack at the school.
Oh yeah.
They end
Well,
up sending
to
it
be
up.
fair, I like to. It's my head canon that there's a little bit more bias. His
That the
uncle.
school actually cares about him personally.
Yeah, we care about you, Spider-Man. We know your secret. And MJ still giving him the cold shoulder. We bounce back and forth. Like, I like this merry-go-round. This I'm okay with. We go to the PS4 Spider-Man and Mary Jane. I will fight tooth and nail. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. I also don't like Sam Raimi's interpretation of Mary Jane either. I'll fight that.
I
But
agree with that one.
this one on the other hand feels real. I like the merry-go-round of like they're trying to do better, but it falls apart, and he's making it fall apart. Like it actually feels like he's being held accountable for actions that he did, rather than complete other situations or things that overall I don't really understand happening. And so, with MJ angry, I mean, at the very least now he doesn't have any distractions. So Peter goes and actually finds out how to steal a camera feed from Kingpin's office. Because if he can prove that Kingpin killed the man, then he's going to be set free.
Hmm.
He breaks into Kingpin's office and steals the information with pretty much ease. But before he can leave, Electro and the Enforcer show up.
And that's where this one ends, and we get to issue 11 called Battle Royale. I didn't know Fortnite was a thing back in like the 2000,
Oh,
but
I regret
I
giving you
I,
this
know,
issue.
I had to though.
No,
The word
no
Battle Royale,
Fortnite.
you gotta know about Fortnite. But
Fortnite
pretty
is
much,
all.
obviously, the battle ensues to the bad guys from the last issue. Peter subdues them and then starts to get away, but Kingpin shows up, and there's a lot of great dialogue here about Kingpin just being fat,
I
and the quips are great. That's one of the things I do love about this version of Spider-Man is he's very quippy, and I do love that.
I love the concept of the fact that Kingpin is not fat. He just has ridiculous muscle, and that's cool. But he looks fat.
Hmm. And of course, Kingpin does not like these jokes, so he gets fucking very angry. They end up fighting, but Spider-Man ends up slipping away just because he was able to web him up, and then he ends up leaving the camera footage for Ben Urich, and then
Sorry, I read the note.
Peter calls MJ saying he has something important to tell her,
In
and
parentheses, he has AIDS. What? Where did that come from? Where did that
I
come?
don't know. I don't know where that note came from. But the Bugle puts out a story about the murder that the Kingpin committed, and now the Kingpin is missing, so
Yeah,
that he can't be found by the police or anything like that. And that's where this issue wraps up.
we actually do get to see a nice little picture of Kingpin in like a tropical
Tropical
suit,
shirt.
and it just does not fit after
Hmm.
hearing all those quips. Then we get to issue 13. This is going to be probably like the one with the most bullet points in the entire thing. Issue 13 is called Confessions. A lot of stuff happens here. Peter reveals that he's Spider-Man to MJ. She laughs, and then Peter actually convinces her by doing like little spider tricks. And then Aunt May storms to the door because she thinks that they're having the hanky panky where the
Hmm.
bullfrogs jump from bank to banky. And that's all that issue has to offer. So next up
And
is,
then we literally get to the next arc.
oh yeah, Double
Double trouble.
Trouble. Peter has one moment of clarity, and even then that's ruined. And we are back at it again with issue number 14, Dr. Octopus.
Yep.
Don't worry, I saved it.
No, you're good. So one of the things we do learn pretty early on in this issue is that the public really doesn't like mutants, and especially anything to do with them. If you know anything kind of about Marvel, you know mutants are the X-Men, and that
Anybody that has
in
superpowers.
this iteration of the Marvel universe, the mutants aren't really like publicly well received just because of all the like damages they cause and the fact that they're kind of just overall weird. Pretty much we kind of find this out through one of the teachers and like trying to talk about it, and some of the kids get upset. But we end up finding out that Dr. Octavius has survived the Osborn Industries explosion, but he has become fused with his metal arms. Bum bum bum.
Who would have thought?
Exactly. We are introduced to a new character at the school. Her name is Gwen Stacy. She's edgy, kind of goth, kind of violent.
Kind of hot.
I agree. Doc Ock's eyes. We go right back to Doc Ock, like right after this. Like, there's a lot of jumping
Moving
around.
on.
Doc Ock eyes are like super messed up, and so he has like a whole bunch of like bandages around his eyes, which like you mentioned earlier, the Sam Raimi kind of definitely took from this and used it as well. But the doctors like intentionally didn't try to make him better. They just kept him alive, and so he ends up getting angry and just murders them.
I love this broken sentence. Everything's nice and punctuated, but this says he gets angry and murdered. But yes, so I want to go a little bit more into detail with that. They were only worried about the preservation of him, and when
Yes.
he wakes up, they talk about it, and Doctor Octavius calls him out on it. He's like, "I know how to do these things. Why didn't you do these things to me? Why didn't you help me?" And they're like, skill issue. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it."
Just we didn't have to. And at this point in time, Kong is just sitting there at home, and he puts it all the fucking together. He's like, Peter Parker is Spider Man.
Kong this Peter is Spider-Man. I was so hoping you'd read the actual bullet point you made because I was gonna wait. Kong this Peter is Spider-Man. That, to be fair, that's kind of his like mentality towards it though. He kind of just sits there. He's like,
Yeah, he's literally sitting there at home, like looking at the ceiling, and he's like, "Man, that kid got bit by a spider. Then there's that weird spider person at the wrestling ring."
"Okay, Anthony, I gotta ask,
Mhm.
what is going on with your notes at this point? Because issue 15 confrontation, it's now King tries to get people to believe Peter's Spider. Are you okay?"
I'm good. Keep in mind, I probably released at like 4 in the morning.
Valid, but you work the late night
Yeah.
shift. No
But
excuses.
yeah, so yeah, issue 15 confrontations. The Kong is literally trying to get anyone to believe him. Flash, anyone. He's like, guys, Peter Parker is Spider Man, and they're like,
And Peter Parker's hearing this. He's like, "Fuck! How do I get away with not doing it?" And
mm-hmm.
then I think it's Flash that offers the idea of like, "All right, go kick his ass. If you
Yes,
kick his ass, he's Spider
yeah,
Man. He's
no, he
gonna
does.
dodge it." And Peter's like, "God damn it! Why do I have to deal with this?"
And so Peter willingly lets it happen. It ends up crying like a baby. Like, why would you
Let me do it for
do
you.
that?
And then we get an amazing scene of just Gwen being like, "You know what? Fuck this." Pulls out a switchblade, I'm pretty sure,
Mhm.
and threatens Kong.
Yeah,
Like she was nothing a part of this, but like Gwen is like Gwen?
Quinn.
Quinn? Harley Quinn is like, "Fuck you, Mr. J."
Mhm.
But she straight up pulls a knife on Kong and of course gets like freaking sent to the principal's office
Yeah.
straight from the get-go, which is such an amazing scene because we get to learn a little bit more about how she acts, kind of.
And her home life is very messed up. Like her mom left, and like her dad's alone now, and he's trying his best, but he's kind of also busy all the time because he's like a police commissioner or something like that.
So, completely unrelated note, totally smooth transition. Doc Ock murders a woman in his old home.
Yeah, yeah. Like I really didn't know how to put that one in there. But pretty much, yeah, that's exactly what happens. It's been so long. They sold his house, but at this point in time, Spider-Man's doing his thing, getting bad guys, and J. Jonah Jameson sees him and kind of Peter's like, "Are you the guy of the Daily Bugle?" And it's kind of funny because he's like, "Are you the guy that's printing all that like totally made up shit about me?" He's like, "Just to sell newspapers." He's like, "I have one thing to say to you. I love it. Keep it up." And then like everyone's like afraid that he was gonna attack him, and he's like, "Oh, thank God." And he goes to walk away, and Spider-Man had webbed his feet together, so he trips.
Oh, that's why he trips. I thought he just fainted.
No, his feet are webbed up.
And
Um,
I'm sorry.
no, go for it, man.
So basically, Urich was on this story for Doc Ock for the longest time.
Mhm.
And we kind of see in the background where JJJ is like, "That story's not going anywhere. Go Spider Man." Da, 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 da.
Mhm.
And finally, after Doc Ock murdering this woman in his old home, he's like, "Yep, go after it. Let's see that he's alive. He's killing people. He's going to be the front of the newspapers." And that lasts for like 30 seconds.
Mm.
But before those 30 seconds end, 30 seconds of fame, we get issue 16, Craven the Hunter, arguably one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. Not this rendition of him,
What do you
but
mean? This is the best rendition.
so Doc Ock breaks into a penthouse, a completely different penthouse, and destroying everything and talking like someone who has lost their mind. Which, to be fair, I mean, can you really blame the guy?
No, he's been through a few things.
Just a little bit though.
Mhm.
And after that, we snap over to Peter that's watching the news in the Daily Bugle, and Craven the Hunter is coming to New York for his show. I think, do we talk about it later? Why Craven? Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's
see it
later.
down
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it's soon. But after he's watching the conversation and stuff, we get to see Captain Stacy try to talk to his daughter Gwen about bringing a knife to school, and it is interrupted when Ben calls about Doc Ock. The feds show
Mhm.
up, a whole lot of dumb stuff. But basically, Captain Stacy's like, "Gwen, you can't bring a fucking knife to school," and she's like, "It's not a phase, Dad."
Yeah, I'm just trying to protect the small puny boy from getting bullied.
I just want to listen to MCR.
Mhm.
And then someone comes to the bugle telling someone to look into a report of a man with mechanical arms climbing up the side of a building to break into Hammer Tower. And this is where things get a little bit more interesting. We get another little wrench thrown in, I mean, a little cog thrown in this giant machine known as the Spider Man, where SHIELD agents visit Mr. Hammer trying to figure out why Doc Ock would break out of care of SHIELD, the same people that just kind of left him in preservation. I don't think
Mhm.
you really need to think too hard about why he'd try to break out of that
Yeah,
one
no, but still.
and break into the Hammer Tower. So Spider actually, it's
Spider.
just the Spider, not Spider
Mhm.
Man. He turned into a Spider now. Spider Man attempts to listen to the conversation, and well, let's just say Red and Blue is not very good for stealth as he gets shot at.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're inside a car. They can't see him on top. And he still gets shot.
Their spider senses were tingling.
You're right.
And Craven finally arrives in New York, and turns out he wants to hunt and kill Spider Man.
Yep. And at this point in time, that's where that issue ends, and we move on to issue 17, Taking Advantage. So obviously, Peter's like, what the fuck? Why am I gonna get killed? I don't want to.
I don't really feel like it today.
And one of the things we kind of learn is like as Craven's kind of getting shown more, we kind of see some of the behind the scenes of his like facade show, and he hates it for the theatrics of it. He's not a fan of it at all. He's super mad. He's like, this is not what I wanted my show to be. He's like, I just wanted to hunt things and be a normal person, but no. And then we have a kind of time skip where a full week passes, and Craven. Actually, I'm gonna leave Craven there for a minute. So Gwen is now finally reintroduced to the class and apologizes for the incident without really apologizing. She's like,
I'm pretty
"I'm
sure.
sorry, but I'd do it again."
Yeah, I was about to say. I'm pretty sure she admits that she will pull a blade on another kid
Mhm.
too. Um,
And so at this point in time, the social studies class teacher is like, "All right, we're gonna do a whole project about being a superhero."
or in this case, mutant.
Yeah, or mutant. And Liz is not a fan at all. She's like, "No, mutants are bad. I'm gonna tell my mommy."
Please do.
And kind of at this point, we jump again. We kind of find out that Hammer Industries is creating supervillains, and specifically, they created Sandman and Electro.
We haven't seen Sandman yet, have
We
we?
haven't, but we see him in this moment when they reveal it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so at this point in time, Hammer is also with the mayor revealing a nice new energy dome project in like the docks or whatever the fuck in New York. I don't know what they're called. It's on my head. I'm sorry, but Doc Ock is like, that's the man I want.
Doc's at
Shows
the
up.
Doc Ock.
Yeah, Doc's at the Doc Ock. Fuck, Doc Ock's the Doc, bro.
I said it wrong the first time. You said it correctly to me.
Yes. And so at this point in time, the school has an assembly talking about how Craven is going to be there at the school to shoot his show. And they're like, hey, you can't talk to him, can't do this, can't do that. And at this point in time, it's like, fuck, I gotta go. Something's happening. And he ends up slipping away, and Jake like finds an excuse for him. And he ends up attaching himself to a helicopter to get there. And the police notice and of course immediately try to open fire on Spider Man. They're not happy with him. And
Why?
it's pretty funny because he ends up like falling on the ground right next to Doc Ock and just kind of like wait, actually gets hurt. He's like, "Da da, ow." And at this point in time, we move on to issue 18.
Yep, the cycle. Doc Ock. The guy has attacked. The guy with 4 arms, metal arms. His name is like Cleopatra or something, and destroyed most of the lab. Spider-Man finds a survivor who tells him to just run. And with that, Doc Ock is able to catch Peter off guard. They start fighting. Very quippy Spider-Man. One of these things that's just always a Spider-Man. In the wise words of um, Superior Spider-Man, I think it was, where he's like, "Will there ever be one of you guys that?" No, wait, no, it was Inheritor from Spider-Geddon. He's like, "Will there ever be one of you guys that just learns to shut the fuck up?"
No.
No. And Doc Ock electrocutes Spider-Man before throwing him out of the building. Hey, I think I've seen
Yeah,
that
he's
one
been
before.
electrocuted and thrown out of a buildings now.
The cops attempt to arrest a drowsy Spider-Man, and Shield's like, no, you don't get to do
It's
that."
ours.
And Peter is able to distract the two groups and makes an attempt to get away, and they quickly follow him into the water. They catch sight of him, and turns out that Spider-Man just goes naked. Like, he takes off his suit in order to
He just
escape.
takes off his shirt.
He has lost pieces of his suit twice now. He lost his
Mhm.
mask, he lost his shirt. At the rate he's going, it might be best to just run around in his undies.
Mhm.
And then MJ comes over and helps him patch up. Well, she helps patch him up because he is absolutely battered. And they both watch the news. And Hammer is blaming Spider-Man for the recent attack because of course not. I mean, of course, why not? And
Mhm.
Peter is the one that's always at fault. And Peter gets angry. MJ makes it all better and gives him a little smoochies. Woo, kissy
Mhm.
cutie. And she jokes about fixing a suit, but that she wants to wear it for the project. And then because Peter says no, because she would just cut the belly out of it, make it a crop top.
Mhm.
To be fair, that's a pretty hot crop top. And then MJ leaves, more angst, and then Aunt May starts coming down, and while Peter is still what the left in the while Peter is still in what's left of his Spider-Man costume, and of course you have that scene where like he's trying to hide it. I think
Mhm.
because at
I
this
mean,
point,
that's where it opens up in issue 19 as well.
alrighty. Speaking of issue 19, piece of work.
Mhm. One of the things I will take kind of a small moment to like kind of talk about is like I would love. I'm gonna definitely put a lot of like the panels of just the covers. One of the things I did notice when I was reading it again is that they really did use a mix of like real life imagery, like taken from actual camera, hand drawn details, and then like just digital renderings to make the covers. Like so, they're very interesting. Like there was one where he's like on like an actual like New York taxi cab, and it's like a digital rendering that was like drawn on top of it. It's like very interesting art design of the comic covers. It's not something you would see nowadays, where they really tried to blend all these medias together to make something
It's a lot of effort
different. Hmm.
to be put into making this concept, and though it's really cool for its time, at this point it's kind of obsolete
Oh no,
because now
exactly.
everything can be digitally drawn.
Hmm.
But it is always nice to go back and admire the classics.
Mhm. And like one thing is like I'm an art guy. Yeah, I will always notice those things. I try not to talk about them too much, but at this point in time, I'll kind of go back into the comic, and Peter obviously is he's fast and he's able to slip away before Aunt May can see him, and he makes his way outside and then upstairs to the bathroom, but he ends up falling and making a loud thud. And of course, Aunt May is worried and runs upstairs like, "Oh, Peter, are you there? Are you okay?" And Peter, being the world's best improvisational master, says he's okay. He's just got bad boobs.
So you're telling me this man can make any quippy thing about Kingpin enough so that Kingpin gets pissed off at him. He can talk back to a giant guy with four robotic arms, but he can't make an excuse for falling in the bathroom.
He's got bad boobs.
That's a real shitty day.
It's just, that's one of my favorite parts. That's why I made sure to write that note specifically because, man, that is Peter. Because there's another comic panel later in a different comic. I don't remember which one, but he like has like a bag of money that he got for whatever reason, and like somebody's about to like break into his like apartment or whatever, and he's like, "Fuck, think fast," and he throws the bag of money out the window. He's like, "Fuck."
That gives me the same energy as the scene from Scott Pilgrim, the movie, where it's like his roommate opens the door and Noodles
Mhm.
is there, and she's like, "Is Scott home?" And then he runs to the window and he's like, "He just left."
Yeah. So at this point in time, Craven shows up at the school. Obviously, the school is under very strict rules. Don't interact with him. And Craven's just kind of walking around, smelling, looking for any sign. And he ends up just like staring directly at Peter. It's like kind of a tense moment. And at this point in time, Gwen jokes that Craven smells like kitty litter, and he is not impressed. He gets actually very angry and just walks away. We end up finding out that MJ has finished the repairs for Spider-Man's outfit. She asks Peter if he likes Gwen, and MJ kind of seems to be jealous and angry that Peter said he liked her.
And a little bit more to that, like they were talking about Gwen and having some conversations before this.
Hmm.
Like there was a little bit of context before MG kind of like goes straight in and be like, "Who's that new girl? Do you like her?" But like
Hmm.
there's a little bit more to it than just her being like, "Oh my god,
Just yeah,
another woman exists."
exactly. At this point in time, oh shit, sorry, I lost my part.
So basically, Spider-Man goes and visits the Hammer once again. Quippy interactions, haha. Spider-Man yells at the Hammer about how Spider-Man was trying to do the right thing, even though he blames Hammer. I mean, even though Hammer blames Spider-Man for everything. And then what's very interesting is though he was blaming Spider-Man for everything, Hammer asks how much it would cost for Spider-Man to be basically a bodyguard, and basically Spider-Man gives him the middle finger, calls him a piece of work, and leaves. You find your spot?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
At this point in time, one of Hammer's research doctors calls, and it turns out that Doc Ock killed him, and he was just using his body to call.
Nice.
Doc Ock blames Hammer for his condition, saying that it was his fault he is the way he is, that he caused the explosion, that he fused the arms and didn't let Shield heal him or whatever. And Hammer agrees to meet with Doc Ock in person. And of course, Spider-Man being Spider-Man knew something was up, so he tagged along. Craven gets word of a sighting of Spider-Man and ends up chasing after him. But at this point in time, we also get an interesting side note here is that Craven was kind of doing some stuff with Miss Brandt from the Daily Bugle.
You, if I remember correctly, like I remember him just kind of sitting there. No, wait, no, they were like
Yeah, they were kind of like wrapped up, kind of. She was on his lap, kind of situation, and then they kind of like shoved her off to leave to go find Spider-Man.
oh, silence, woman. My
Hmm.
crusade continues.
At this point in time, we end up finding out that Doc Ock had set up Hammer into falling into a press trap so that he could say that Hammer did this to him. And at this point in time, obviously, he said it first, and the press is there. Or who are they going to believe, him or, Hammer?
Who are they going to believe? The complete psycho that was sputtering nonsense and tried to murder and has killed a bunch of several people, or the actual guy named MC Hammer?
But has anyone been able to prove that Doc Ock killed anyone yet?
I,
No.
no, but counter argument.
Counter argument: police is dumb if they can't figure it out.
Counter argument. There's a thing called common sense in this world.
Oh
The
yeah.
only person that seems to have it is Peter fucking Parker.
And at this point in time, obviously that issue wraps up when we go to issue 20 called Live.
So, Craven and his crew are on the way to their Spider-Man sighting, and I'm pretty sure this is the one scene where Craven is kind of doing this weird meditative stuff,
Yes.
where he's sitting there singing "Kumbaya," and
Hmm.
by that I mean he's purely just for the
Yeah.
sake of meditating.
And then you have like his like talker person, like the narrator, just talking. They're like, "Shut up, you suck." They're like giving him so much shit. He was trying to like redo it.
It's like, all right, now do it again, but like breathe through your nostrils this time. And then Hammer, of course, tries to run from Octavius because um, does Hammer have any powers? No, he has a thing called money, and money can't stop a serial killer from trying to kill you.
Yep.
And Spider-Man comes in. Octavius rematch is live.
Yeah. With all these press people here, obviously it's just everyone has cameras pointed on it. They want to see it.
This is probably the biggest point at the like biggest point in Spider-Man's career so far because now there's actual proof that Spider-Man is trying to do the right thing.
Yep.
The only thing that's been released was the press saying, like JJJ saying that he's a horrible person. There's the Kingpin incident, which I mean to be fair was exposed as well. So I guess that one would have been fine. But the only other person that's really been influencing him, like I said, was JJJ.
JJ.
And
Yep.
now we get to see that Spider-Man is trying to do the right thing.
And trying to save people.
It's, he gets the upper hand to put a stop to Octavius, and his fighting doesn't really stop because Craven kind of arrives for another round two. And I do want to point out that there's some amazing dialogue here where Craven's like, "This is our time to fight," and he's like, "Come on, I just dealt with this. Why are you doing this to me?" Which leads us into issue 21 called Hunted.
Yes. Uh, Obviously the news reporters are all watching. Craven shows up, and it Spider-Man gets him in one hit, just one hit KO, just knocks him into the tire, and he passes out. And at this point in time, the news reporters are like, "Oh, who are you? Did you know Justin Hammer? Did you work for him? Were you paid by him? Were you there at the attack? Blah blah blah." And they're all like just trying to get a whole bunch of information from him, and he's like, "They're like, just talk to us for a second. We just need information." And he pretty much is like, They're like, "Are you a mutant? What's up?" And he's like, I was normal. I don't know what's wrong with me." And he's like, "I'm just trying to do the right thing." And he's like, "I'm trying to stop people from hurting people like you, people that can't protect themselves." And he like really, there's some interesting dialogue here. Just on like, he's like, "I know people are having a hard time," and he's like, "I'm just trying to make sure that everyone's okay." And he's like, he doesn't care if J. Jonah Jameson says all this shit about him. He's just like, it doesn't matter because no matter what, he's still going to make sure that everyone can be okay. And he ends up like making some quippy jokes about being from like an alien from different planet.
Oh
Just
yeah,
because
he just
obviously you
says
can't
that.
have like a completely serious moment. But and that's kind of, we end up seeing Shield step in and take back Doctor Octopus, and then Peter gets home and Aunt May is not happy, and she ends up grounding our big time superhero.
And the angst continues.
Hmm. And then we get a reveal at the very end while Doctor Octopus is in his little cell that he put it together. Spider-Man is motherfucking Peter Parker.
So that is a total of
Three.
Norman Osborn, Kingpin. I don't know if his
Not
enforcer,
Kingpin. I
his
mean, I don't know. They never said his names. I mean, they at least know his face, but.
also the enforcers know his face as well.
Mhm.
And so if we're not counting just by his face, that would mean Doctor Octavius. That would mean Norman Osborn. Who would have been the
And
third
then
one
Kong.
in the Kong?
Yeah, Kenny. Kenny knows.
Oh,
No one believes Kenny, but
Kenny
Kenny
does indeed
knows.
know. So with that, that is the next two arcs of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good place to wrap it up there.
I agree 100%. Like, what did you feel? I know you said you don't really like the Craven fight because Craven is knocked
Well,
out in one punch.
it is frustrating to me to see my favorite villain just do nothing. But
Mhm.
I'm also hoping that eventually it'll build back up because you've read this
I
before.
have read this
You've
before, and I'm
gone
not.
through
I'm not
all of
going to give you too
Ultimate.
many spoilers.
Everything for Ultimate is entirely uncharted territory for
Hmm.
me. So I'm hoping things get better for Craven. And but
Like one of the
overall,
things I will say, I like it because it kind of makes it seem like Craven really is just a face for a selling point of a show. He actually has no skill. He just kind of
well,
there.
that's
It's all
why
shade.
I don't like the fact that he looks like he has no skill. I love the concept of him being this hunter, this person that has trained himself,
Hmm.
worked himself to his very core, and now he just gets decked in the face and made a complete joke of himself. Which,
I think I get that. Like, I think it's an interesting take, and it definitely sets it aside from the normal one.
oh yeah,
You know,
I can totally understand where they're coming from with it. It doesn't mean that I have to like.
you don't have to like
It's
it.
like watching your favorite football team like lose.
No.
It's
Hmm.
just like, ah, come on, man.
Sucks. No, I mean, I do have one question for you.
Oh,
Actually, how are you feeling about the series so far?
how am I feeling about the series?
I said, yeah, we're three arcs in. There's like 27 to go.
Genuinely, I am really enjoying the series. It's a lot of fun. It's a little bit more like it's ultimate for a reason. Like this one hits a little bit harder when it tries to hit. There's a lot of like violence straight from the get go.
Hmm.
The characters' little spins on them. I love those concepts. We talked about it once. We talked about it a million times. I'm gonna keep talking about it till the day I die. This is just like another multiverse concept.
Yep.
In this case, a Spider Verse, which we'll go into more detail with that later. But I love the concept of having something, twisting a little bit of it, and then doing it.
Hmm.
And also, it has like my favorite renditions of certain characters. Like I do like this Doctor Octopus a little bit. I mean, my favorite will probably always be Superior Spider-Man, and that whole storyline until it gets to the end with Mephisto.
Fisto.
Your one more day sucks. My Superior one more day. I have the Superior one more day. Uh,
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching our Spider-Man Art 2 interview.
or 2 and 3 in
Oh,
review.
yeah, 2 and 3. You're right.
So I'm Chris.
I'm Anthony.
And this was, yeah, wait,
Misguided penmanship.
we already said that. Wait,
Yeah,
no, we didn't say that
we
part.
haven't said that part yet.
Yeah, this is appendages, misguided appendages. My foot is where my hand should be.
Thank you guys.
Alrighty,
Bye bye.
bye bye.